game night as the Battle of Ontario gets underway at the Air Canada Centre on a Saturday night. Hi, everybody. I'm Jody Vance. Welcome to Leaf Nation HQ and the Molson Canadian Leaf Nation pregame show. Very glad to be joined by Joe Bowen, the usual suspects here, and Mark Morrow, and our senior reporter, Paul Henrik. Gentlemen, Battle of Ontario, does it still hold the weight? Can it, with so few guys who have ever played against each other?
Oh, I think it can. They're not going to play as often against one another this year as they have in past, but I think the one thing that it always does is bring out the rivalry. And, of course, this is how rivalries are made, and it is because of what happens in the playoffs. And the Leafs have had great success against Ottawa in the playoffs, and Senators have had great regular season success against the Maple Leafs, which means absolutely diddly because in the playoffs they get beat.
But it's exciting to get it all started tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, it's exciting. And you talk about the memories. I obviously have a special spot in my heart for Ottawa. They're the team that drafted me. However, they then chose to trade me before they even offered me a pro contract. So at the same time, my favorite memory is having the Leafs dominate them throughout those playoffs when it counts the most, because quite frankly, they never gave me an opportunity to come in here and play against the Leafs. And I've moved on to bigger and better things.
And it's good to see that you're not sour.
Yeah,
never.
He's moved on.
Jody, I remember the playoffs of 2001, Game 3, and Corey Cross, who played very little on that particular night. Pat Quinn sends him over the boards, and he promptly gets the puck, scores the overtime winner. Toronto goes up 3-0, and Corey, for his precise timing, is named the game's first star. So many great memories between these two teams, but I love Corey as a player and what he brought to this team, so that's what I remember best.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Now we head live downstairs to Andy Petrillo, who's standing by. Andy, what do you have coming up on the show tonight?
Well, I'll be talking a little Ottawa Senators, Jody, and I'll be doing that with the assistant coach of the Ottawa Senators, Curtis Hunt, talking about his relationship as well with the head coach, Craig Hartsburg, and what's wrong and what's right with the Ottawa Senators. Jody?
All right, thanks, Andy. We'll look forward to that. Coming up on tonight's show, lots to cover, of course. The foot's better, so fingers back. I've been dying to use that headline since the start of this regular season. Yes, he has played one preseason game, injury, and now tonight will make his regular season start with his new team, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Of course, I'm speaking of Jeff Finger. I'm going to talk a little bit of Ivy League. I've got the conservative attire today because we are going to be talking about Harvard with one Dominic Moore. And what's the connection there? You might find it quite interesting. And, of course, we always have to begin the show with the headlines, brought to you by Ford, powered by you.
Well, the headlines tonight, Jody, finding the net. The Leafs starting to find the net. 4 goals in Boston the other night. Defensive decisions, who plays and who doesn't play. Tough times these days for head coach Ron Wilson, and Jason Blake back in the lineup after playing 178 consecutive games. Well, the last 4 games have seen Toronto progress from 0-1 to 2 to 4 goals. And Joe and Mark, what are the Leafs doing better in the attacking zone to allow them to progress from 0 to 4 goals in 4 games?
Well, it's that gritty style of hockey that they need to play. Ron Wilson's talked about it often, about getting in hard on the forecheck and driving the net. You'll see the goals here from Boston. Look, it's 1, 2, 3 guys in front of the net. The puck pops out to the point. Van Ryan's able to put it in. Here again on a hard forecheck. Ponikarovsky takes it to the net. Antropov coming flying in, driving the net. This is what they have to do. These are the little things, using their speed, using their size, getting the net. Alex Steen, hard on the forecheck. They're getting first to the puck on the forecheck. It's causing turnovers. Consequently, they're getting opportunities to score, and that's what we're able to see here from the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And the other aspect is they're playing in the offensive zone more. That means they're playing less in the defensive zone. And if that works out, in fact, one game they didn't have a shot on goal for over 30 minutes against. So to be able to do that builds confidence, and it also means that you're in the right end of the rink more times than not. If you're playing well in your own end of the rink, your transition game works, and you're also in the offensive zone.
Headline number 2, defensive decisions. Tonight, Jonas Fogren's turn to sit out a game. Do the pros outweigh the cons of having 3 not-so-happy defensemen from game to game not playing in a particular contest, Joe?
Well, I think the one thing that Ron Wilson has said, I'd rather step on some toes than stomp on some feet. So he has worked this rotation around, and I think it's been fairly fair as it's gone around. Now, Jonas Fogren is going to be the odd man out tonight, but that's the way it's going to work. And then they're going to have to make some sort of a decision. And I think Cliff Fletcher is probably really working the phones hard, trying to ease the logjam they have in the back end. And it's a nice thing to have. We talked about this before, Mark. Sooner or later, the depth will be tested because defensemen historically are going to be the ones that probably go down with more injuries than not, and that's from just simply taking shots. And then Ron Wilson is demanding block shots. You block shots, it hurts, and sometimes it hurts badly enough, and Finger found out about it with his foot.
And I think you talk about Ron Wilson and his interaction with the fence. How do you change up something that's working? You talked about it yourself. When you're playing well in your own end, you're going to get offensive opportunities by getting out of your own zone, and that's exactly what the guys who are in the lineup are doing. They're playing well in their own end. How do you take them out when they're playing well? That's the question Ron Wilson's facing.
Well, as we've mentioned, foot better, Finger finally in. He hasn't played in almost a month, dating back to that first exhibition game against the Buffalo Sabres, and needless to say, he's relieved to finally see some active duty tonight.
Yeah, excited to get in there tonight. Finally, seems like a couple of years since July 1, so just excited.
Completely, no lingering issues at all. You're completely.
No, I mean, I still feel a little bit, but it's not. It's a non-issue now in terms of skating and mobility and stuff. So it's good.
Just a shootout, try to just keep it simple in your first game out there, and try not to get too excited.
Definitely. I mean, that's going to be my mindset, and that's my game anyway. So hopefully, there's no problems doing that.
Since you're playing your first game as a Toronto Maple Leaf, does it mean maybe a little bit more to be coming into your game at home as opposed to on the road?
Yeah, that's nice to do that. I was able to get in one in the preseason, the very first game there. So, but yeah, it's nice to start at home, just in a comfortable situation. So.
Well, to make room for Mr. Finger, and I want to say Foot, but Foot's still in Colorado. Yuri Tolusti, guys, had to be sent down today, and he's had a bit of a rough start. Not so bad defensively, but he is yet to score.
No, and I think the other aspect, and it's business. He is able to be sent down without having to risk losing him through waivers. And sometimes it's not fair, but sometimes it's just a matter of business, and that's the way it's worked out for Yuri Tolusti.
Before we move on, you've seen many a guy sent down to the Toronto Marlies. Important not to have the pout on, work hard to get yourself back up here?
It's especially important, especially when you're just down the street. You can't go hide. It wasn't like it was before, and you go down to St. John's and they kind of forget about you, and you can pout all you want. Here, you're just down the street. Everybody's aware of what's going on, and it's a simple phone call to get you right back. So you've got to get back on the ball. You can't sit and stress out about what's happened. You got to worry about the future, and that's the only thing you can control.
Tolusti out, Jason Blake is back in, and guys, we've got to wonder how Jason can utilize his speed to be a more effective player inside, because it certainly gets rough for a guy who's only 5'8", Joe.
He can take Mark Morrow's highlights of the game in Boston and put them in his locker. Going to the net, being aggressive, getting into the traffic areas, where you're going to score goals and not playing on the periphery. And when Jason Blake is effective, that's what he's doing. The other thing, he cannot turn the puck over at either blue line. And I think that aspect of his game was as much a reason for him having his consecutive game streak snapped as anything.
Well, as we look ahead, we can look back to what Jason Blake did on the island. He was a 40-goal man just 2 years ago, but he had Alexei Yashin there to set him up. So does Jason have to reinvent himself as a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs? Here's what head coach Ron Wilson had to say about that assessment.
Probably not going to have that here, so he's got it's not a one-on-one game, but what Jason's got to do is go hard to the front of the net, use his speed outside, take the puck to the net. And when he plays on the perimeter, he's not very effective. He understands that early in training camp. And our game in Detroit, he did that, and he's kind of fallen back to old habits. And that's really all he's got to do. Don't play along the boards deep in the other zone. Get towards the front of the net. Get into the traffic areas and draw penalties and things like that. That's where you get your offense.
Well, if anybody can get Jason Blake going, it's going to be Ron Wilson. It's worked with several of his players he's already sat out. A lot more to talk about tonight's game, but Jody, before that?
We're going to talk some Senators in the next segment, but before we go to commercial here, I want to have a quick chat about the pink ties that are available online in support of cancer awareness, and NHL fights cancer. And Henny, one bid on your tie, so I'd like to thank your wife.
Yes.
Yes?
Uh-huh.
Lovely. I'm just a little worried about Mark Morrow. Ladies.
Yeah,
tie
you know
available.
what? The soup will come off. The soup will come off. He had that one small discretion down in the meal room.
That's what it is. It's the stain.
No, well, that makes it even more, unique.
The soup stain on the tie. That's what's keeping it at 0. We need to get more bids. Log on to mapleleafs.com. Click on the icon that says Pink Ribbon Auction here. It's open until Monday. There's some great stuff on there, and you are helping to fight cancer. We need all the help we can get. We're back with more from Air Canada Centre right after this.